It's my pleasure today to introduce Sandra Curlis. She's a music teacher teaching piano and guitar in Montessori school since 2005. Currently she teaches at Summit Quest Montessori School in Dayton, and she adapts well-known techniques to the Montessori style of learning. Her specialties are how to play the instrument and perform in public, and all the components of that curriculum. And she also puts on school recitals, which involves hundreds of children, and you know how difficult that is. So it's with great pleasure that I introduce Ms. Sandra.
So I know all about me, but I don't know about all of you. So what I would like to know is, because it's unusual to have a music workshop in the first place, there are not many Montessori tools for music. So how many of you are music teachers? But besides being a music teacher, I know in a room this size, we're going to have people who play an instrument. So how many play the piano? Mine. Okay. Any other instruments? Guitar, clarinet, flute? Tambourines? Okay. So I was asked in 2005 to teach music in a Montessori school. I had no real background with Montessori, but the ladies who ran the school were used to having a music teacher, and they wanted one, and they heard about me and asked if I would do it. And I thought, this sounds like a nightmare. This sounds like, but they talked me into it. And I'm so glad they did, because I've learned so much. And I have developed a system that I hope will help people who are not musicians to be able to teach music in the classroom, because the only resources I can find are these little mommy and me drumming things and handbells and maybe a glockenspiel, and that's about it. There really is no music training tools. So I'm assuming that you're here because you're hoping to teach music in your Montessori classrooms. Yes. Wonderful. Okay, so like they said in The Sound of Music, and Julie Andrews sang, where do we start? We start at the very beginning, a very good place to start. When children are learning their ABCs and their numbers, we have tools that help them focus, because if they can't focus, they're not going to learn. So, welcome. Come on in. How are you? Yeah, anywhere as long as you can see the screen, because eventually we will look at a few videos. Okay, so in the first place, I knew how to teach piano. I knew how to teach guitar, but I didn't know much about Montessori. So I was asked to come teach at this Montessori classroom, and they were doing things I wasn't used to in classrooms. You know, they had shelves and trays, and children would walk over and get their own tray and sit down and act like they knew what they were doing. Right. And they gave me a room that had a piano in it, and it had a nice shelf full of music books. And I said, where do you want me to start? And they said, wherever you want to. Just go from book to book, pick one out of this, pick one out of that, whatever you want to do. And I began to realize that they really meant it when they said, we want children to go at their own pace. We want them to learn as fast or take as long as they need to learn. So bit by bit, I developed what I hope are tools that would help you do that, whether you know music or not, because as you teach the tool, you'll be learning. And music is like anything else. I tell the students, it's like reading. You learn your ABCs, okay? Then you learn what they sound like. You learn how to put them together. But we have all these wonderful tools to help people do that. And in music, what I found is it's frightening to people, because there's too much information, and how do I get there, and how do I get from there to here. So that's what this is all about. I had parents who would come to me, and you know that Montessori parents are the most wonderful parents in the world. I was accustomed to people bringing a child to me and saying, "I'll see you in a half hour." Right? I'm going to Publix, bye. Okay, and then they go do whatever they do, and they expect the child to learn. And then they say, "What do? I say, "Make them practice at home," and that's a lesson. Okay? But I had parents in Montessori schools who would say to me, "I really want to help my child at home, but I'm not a musician. So can you give me something so that I can help them learn what you're teaching here in the classroom?" So one of the first things I ever did was make a workbook. And it was aimed at parents who want to go home and do some activities with their children to help reinforce what I'm teaching in the classroom, but they don't have to already know music to do it. It has we talk about the big 7. I call the letters that we use in music the big 7, because there are only 7, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and that's it, and they love to do that. And that's it, right? That's all we have in music. It used to be that they would teach music with do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, right? Most people are not teaching the solfege like that in America anymore. We're teaching by letters. So this would be do, but it's also a C. And when you talk to most musicians today are not aware of, and that do could be moved, okay? If you're in the key of G, do could be here. So do is very confusing. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do can be very confusing. But if you have 7 letters, which is what most musicians, like I said, are used to dealing with, you have C, D, E, if we start on A though, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And I'll do this with the students and I'll say, what happens now? We have more keys. And they, H, I, J, K, they do all that. We start all over again. Eventually some bright student will say, "Oh, you start all over again. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And what do we do next?" And then finally they get it and they go A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And I let them each touch it and go through the A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And I say, "Okay, the next one, you come do it and you come do it." And that was another thing with Montessori, is that I wasn't used to having a group. So when they first told me, "You'll be doing group lessons," I was like, "No, that won't work." I actually decided that I would work there long enough to find another job. And I fell in love with the kids, and I actually fell in love with the Montessori method. I'm not Montessori trained still, but I've been in Montessori schools 10 years, and so I tried to absorb what I'm seeing and learn what it is that makes Montessori so spectacular for teaching, and it is. So this is one page where they're just going to write their letters, and while they're doing this, I get to watch and see how well they use their fingers and their hands, what their dexterity level is, because those things really matter. You'll have a parent who says, "Oh yes, my child knows the alphabet," but they don't know what the shapes are. So you can have everything from a 3-year-old to an 8th grader at our school. And when you have younger children, it's really important to watch them and see how they do and how they listen and how they understand what they're doing. So then we talk about, okay, we know there's 7, we call it the big 7. What is it worth? And you can go through this and just read this to them. This page is where they get to add a star, because we talk about with only those 7 letters, you can make hundreds and millions and trillions of songs. First I'll say, how many songs can we make with those 7 letters? No, those 7. Oh, we can make 10 maybe 100. And then they catch on to that. And I say, because you can always make one more song. So you can make more songs than all the stars in the sky with just 7 letters. Same way we do with the alphabet, right? We can always write a new book. So they get to add stars on that page. Then we have to learn about the keyboard. We're learning piano. It's amazing to me how many people don't realize that the black keys are in a pattern. We go through and they'll name the white keys, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, okay, that's in there. Then we have to look at the black keys because they're in a pattern. And the pattern is 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2. On every piano, everywhere you ever go, every keyboard is going to be that pattern. So once the children realize that, they love to go 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2. And that's a very important concept. Because, in this page, they can put an X over 3 and a circle around 2. Because we learn what the notes are by their relationship to the black keys. So one of the first things they learn when we go into the piano is that when you have 2 black keys, on the left side is C. But then we can go through and play every C because it's on the left side of 2 black keys. Right? And then we can learn that we go in alphabetical order. D is in between 2 black keys. B, D, 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 all the way up, and then they can do every E. Now, very small children, you kind of stay on that concept for a little bit. So, this is something my preschool and kindergarten kids love. I like magnets because you don't lose the parts so easily. So when we're talking about the C, the D, and the E by the 3 black keys, I'll put 2 children on opposite sides of the table like this. I won't have you do this, although we're going to play some games later. And just have them hold their hands out like this and say, okay, 1, 2, 3, we drop the magnets into their hands, and the magnets have the letters C, D, and E. Who can get it on there the quickest, right? Now I know some people don't like the idea of competition, but if it's friendly, it does wonders because they kind of egg each other on. Somebody won, I want to win, I'm going to work harder, I'm going to learn it, right? So, believe it or not, something as simple as that, and I make them in cookie pans because the magnets will stick. And kids love magnets, you know. If their mind wanders, they sit there and do this for a while, and then they come back and think about what they're actually supposed to be learning. So my little preschoolers will do this 10 minutes. I mean, they'll sit there and work this thing, and it gets the idea into their mind that every time you have 2 black keys, you have C, D, E, right? So these kind of work along with each other. Then we want to learn our finger numbers. They get to trace around their hand, each hand, and learn that the thumb is number 1. Next finger is 2. You know, sometimes they'll go, well, if this is 1, then this must be 1. No, thumbs are all 1, which is different if you play the guitar. So if they have someone in their family that plays guitar, you just say, well, in guitar, a different finger is number 1, but in piano, your thumb is number 1. So that's all we're doing on this page is learning finger numbers, because clear up into classical music, you're going to be reading the music that somebody edited with finger numbers, and the sooner they learn that, the farther they can go in playing music. So then, they want to play a song, and they still don't know for sure what all these notes are. So a lot of piano methods have stickers that you put on the keys, and then when you try to take the stickers off, it leaves a smudge. And maybe you have children at different levels. You have someone who's playing intermediate music. They don't want those stickers there, but you have a small child and they need that guidance of which note is named which note. So I made a little, I call it a piano ruler. And that way you can put it on or take it out. And the little The smallest children will learn that because C, D, E, because D is in the middle of two black keys, you can put it like this and line up the black keys with the black blocks, and you've got all the letters that you need for your first hand position. Which, at the beginning, they're not ready. They're not ready to use only this finger on that note. They're still going like this, right? They like to use this pointer. So you put that in, but then they can play a song. Because the first songs are only letters. So if they know A, B, C, D, E, F, G, they can play these songs that they recognize. So we've got this little ring, ring, go away. D, B, 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 D, D, B, E, B, B, B. And when they recognize something that maybe they sing in the rest of their classes, and they know they've played that themselves, you know, the charge they get out of it, and I get watching them. That's the thing that I learned from Montessori. Not that I didn't know it, it's like Montessori really zeroes in on this idea that the child has to get it. They have to light up on the inside. They're not memorizing information, they're growing, they're learning. So they can play a song, their very first lesson, and if you haven't been trained in music, all you need to know is how to put the piano ruler in. Stick it in so the D is in between the two black keys. And it won't be long before they notice that you have an F and a G over here on this side of the piano ruler. You also have an F and a G over on this side. So they say, how do I know which F and which G? To make that easier, you can pass this around. I put little arrows. Put a down arrow by the left end of the ruler and up arrows by the F and the G at the other end, so that when they play a song a little bit more difficult than Ring Ring Go Away, here in Yankee Doodle we have an F that has the up arrow by it. So they know when they're playing Yankee Doodle, it's that F, otherwise they'd be going, and that doesn't sound like Yankee Doodle. It has to be. Okay? So by looking at the piano ruler and looking at a letter song, we just call them letter songs, they begin to play songs that they recognize. This one, I didn't put the title on because what I want them to do is hear it. I want them to hear the song and recognize it so that they're playing it, and I played a song I know, and then all of a sudden they go, that's, listen to the song. G, G. And as soon as they hear that, they're like, my mom's having a birthday party. Can I play this for my mom's birthday? Right? They can go home and play Happy Birthday with very, very little knowledge. Then everyone loves Twinkle. All the kids want to play Twinkle, so we have Twinkle. And you could do this with any song. You could write the letters with the little piano ruler. Most melodies stay within a little over an octave range. So any song that they say to me, well, I love so-and-so, I can usually write the letters out, and you can do that. The next thing is to learn the symbols. In music, it's like reading a language. You have to know more symbols than just those. So the G clef and the F clef is next. I never was told this was a G clef when I was a child. I was told it's the treble clef, which it is. And this is the bass clef, which it is. But when I started teaching at the Montessori, I heard children saying that's the G clef, and I thought, why are they doing that? They're doing that because everyone's heard the every good boy does fine, right? Your second line up is G. So the big circle here circles the G line. And when it was first being used, that was the whole purpose of it, because clefs were movable in the beginning. When they first started writing music down, they might want G to be here. So they would make it up here, make the circle there. We've eventually arrived at kind of a uniform way of writing music the world over. And a G clef, this is always our G line, unless you're playing an instrument like a viola. There are instruments, but they don't use the G clef, they have another clef they use. So at this level, all they need to know, this is the G clef, it's for your right hand. Okay? You have 5 lines also on the bottom, that's the F clef. And the reason it's called the F clef is that dot and these 2 dots surround the F line. We have a little thing, I don't know if you've heard of great big dogs from Alaska. Some people say great big dogs fight animals. Right, some people do it about cars guzzling gas, but you know, these little mnemonic phrases that people are recognized, but they don't know why they're saying them. But this is your F line, and the F clef was made to show you which line is F. Okay? So then they want to learn how to draw those, because if they draw those things, they remember it better. One of the most important Montessori tools, when my son was small, he was a little bit dyslexic, and they were just starting to talk about dyslexia. And I went to a Montessori school and they said, oh, we do sandpaper letters. If the children can feel which way the D or the B goes, then it somehow helps in their brain. So I made this little G clef that you can pass around and feel it's sandpaper. And then you want them to try to draw the G clef and the F clef. And you get all kinds of crazy little squiggles, but that's okay, because at that point you're watching them and you get to see what they're capable of. Some of them are very visual, and they already know which way the circle goes, and some of them are just like the circle might be anywhere, right? But you're learning, you're watching the child and learning what this child can do and how this child learns. And then you just have them write a few. It doesn't matter if they do it right. What matters is that they're learning what it looks like. Okay? The next concept is also very simple, and that's line notes and space notes. Every note ever written on any piece of music is either a line note or a space note, because it's either on the line so that the line goes through the middle of it, or it's in the space between the lines. So we spend time talking about line notes and space notes, and we have flashcards that are nothing but circles with the line through them or the line above and beneath, so that they know there's a difference. A line note and a space note, and here they're just going to write an L or write an S. Once again, you can watch them. And that's it. Once they learn those 7 concepts, they're ready to start learning how to read music. But meanwhile,
excuse me, how old are the children you're teaching there? How
from
old?
3 to, what are our 8th graders? How old are they? 12?
13.
From 3 to 14.
Just with 3-year-olds.
Yeah, I can do this with 3-year-olds. This was made for the small children because the parents asked me, what can I do at home to help reinforce what they're learning? Because at that age, unless they're a child prodigy, and most children are not going to be a concert pianist when they sit down right away, you know, they may grow into it, but only a few children are so gifted that they will play Mozart in the second week. But they need to learn these symbols and understand what they mean, because music is like everything else, it's building blocks. You learn a few things, and then you build on those. But those few things don't change. There may be exceptions to the rule, but all the way through music, you're going to be using those building blocks. So for the little small ones, I started doing sorting trays for Montessori style. And I'll pass this around and I'll show you. I don't know what happened to my computer, it went down. Oh, there we go. I think I have to. Ray, can you walk?
Big seven.
It's the big seven. Excuse me, and I can't see. Yeah?
Three black keys.
Uh-huh. What's the pattern?
3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2.
Okay, what's next? Yeah.
And those 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, maybe the picture.
Yes, please sit back. Please sit
The
back.
music alphabet A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Okay, keep going.
And there, and an elephant, a rhino, and a baby.
Excellent, okay.
What was she saying, teacher?
That's the pattern of the black keys.
3, 2, 3, 2.
Yeah,
Okay.
when
No,
we
were hearing.
somebody hold up the,
No, we were hearing something else, that's why I was.
3, 2, 3, 2, and they, they love to just, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2.
Yes.
But that's how they learn. Here's Eva. Excellent. Can you point to each one and tell me the name of it? Yes or no?
What, 3?
Point to it. And what is the big seven?
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Wonderful. What's the next one?
3 black keys.
Where? Point to it. And what does that mean? The piano has a pattern of,
3 black keys.
and then what?
2 black keys.
Yeah, point to the 2. And then, what's next?
I don't remember.
Okay, what do you remember? She can't read yet, so she's looking at the music alphabet going, that's not a picture. But they help each other, they love to help each other. Just more sorting. I didn't show their faces because I didn't get through to their mothers to get permission. But they'll watch each other and they really enjoy that at that age. When I was taught piano, you started out with a piece of music in front of you and they're singing, you play the song, right? But when I started teaching in Montessori, I realized there were a lot of gaps that needed to be filled in. And there were no tools. So that's why I ended up creating tools. There are worksheets and flashcards in abundance, but that's pretty much it as far as tools. So, eventually, for my older students, and we'll get around to this later, but I'm going to show you just as a way of giving a timeline. This game was created for my older students because they don't like to pay attention to those symbols. And we're all going to play this because I don't expect you to sit here and sort. But the smaller children saw how much fun they had playing this game and learning the symbols that they asked me, why don't you have a game for us? So with the big sevens, believe it or not, this will keep 3 and 4 and 5-year-olds happy for longer than I'm used to. And all it is they pick a letter. Sometimes I leave it in here so they have to reach up here. They're just going to pick a letter out, and we all look at it, and I'll say, is that in the big seven? Yes or no, and they get all excited about yes it is or no it isn't. So we put the ones in the big seven on one side and we put the ones that are not on the other side. And that's all that is, but it helps them get that cemented into their minds more than just writing it on paper. So you can pass that around, but it's not too exciting, really. So they asked for a board game. So we made a little board game, which is wonderful for small children because they have to learn how to share, how to take turns, how to be quiet when it's not their turn and it's somebody else's turn to give the answer. And it really helps with social skills like that. Same symbols, same exact symbols, and all we do is go around the board with the dice and our little men. And on the color blocks, we have a set of cards that they might use. You can do this, and that's another Montessori concept that changed the way I teach, and that is that you put together first graders, second graders, and third graders in the same room. So you have children who are on all different levels, and I try to make the tools so that a beginner can play with someone who knows all the information. The beginner could actually win because the way the games are set up, anyone could win because there are usually too many ways to lose. So I try to set them up so that children of different age levels can all play together and still all be learning. So when you begin with the preschooler, they don't do well with missing a turn. On the older students, we have penalty boxes where they may have to go and sit there and miss a turn. But if you do that to a 3-year-old, they cry. So we had to find a way of making a game so that the 3-year-olds won't cry. So we don't miss turns in this game. And we don't use the cards if they're very young. When they land on a color block, we call it a safe zone. If they land on a symbol, they have to say the name of the symbol and everything they know about it. If they don't know, we have a little glossary that they can look in and read it out loud. They have to read it out loud so that everyone in the room gets to learn. If they can't read, usually an older child will say, "Oh, let me help you." And so they read it for them, and that, they work together that way, which is wonderful. So if they land on a symbol, they have to tell you what it means. If you're not a musician, there's a glossary that explains everything. And it's all those little symbols we've already talked about. And if they land on a color block, when they are a little more able to actually play a board game, we have cards. You take a card when you land on a color block and you read it out loud or have your friend read it, and then do whatever it says. And it's going to ask you a question about one of these symbols and tell you if you don't know, then you start from the 3 black keys, or if you don't know, then you start from the space notes. So even at this level, anyone can win whether they know the information or not. I'll pass one of these around. So I have 2 pieces of information that go with it. One is the answers to the game cards for teachers, parents who may not know. This is the glossary that the children can look at, and very early on they can tell what it says. It helps them with their reading skills. Start a couple more. Originally I made these all on cookie pans so that we had fewer arguments. If they bumped the board, "Oh, you bumped it and I was there. No, you weren't, you were over there." So the magnets don't totally do away with that, but they help a lot. But then I found that the cookie pans are heavy to mail. They're expensive to mail, so when people want one, they may want one like that that's not so heavy to mail. Same game, whether it's in the cookie pan or on the board. Okay. That's level 1. The big 7 level, just mainly the symbols that you need before you learn how to read music. Level 2 is reading music, actually reading the notes. So, again, a sorting tray. And this is very important because they need to learn in reading music here. Right over. We were up late making these to make sure we had enough, but we didn't have enough. Okay, so in reading music, when they accomplish this, I also like to use a little chart. Children love to see a star on the chart because they go over and show their friends, they invite their mothers in. I have 4 stars, I got a star today. Very important to them. So these are those 7 concepts on a little chart for them. Because the older students have a chart, so they wanted one. When you go to level 2, you're reading notes. You're no longer looking at the letters because you need to know what a C looks like as a note. Okay? So again with the magnets. You need a little magnetic board with first 5 fingers that you're going to use. And I have a little song that I play on an MP3. I can send it to the mother's phone, I can send it to their computer through the email, and they play it. And it simply gets the child's fingers moving. Because you do not want a child to go like this forever. They have to learn how to get those other fingers working, and we talked about the fact that these 3 fingers are strong because that's how we hold a pencil, that's how we hold a fork. But when we play the piano, we can't depend on those 3 fingers. We have to get those muscles strong enough on the side of your hand to where you can use all of your fingers and play the piano to play more difficult songs. So they need to learn the first 5 notes for each finger. And we can take these magnets and just move them around, but first they need to learn in order. If it's going up, you're going up on the piano. If it's going down, you're going down on the piano. And they need to learn which way is up and which way is down. And we call this up because the sound, the pitch gets higher and higher. We call that down because the pitch gets lower and lower and lower and lower. Right? And that's a very important concept in music. They need to know what's high and what's low and what pitch is all about. So the first 5 notes we learn, C, D, E, F, G, look like this. C is underneath the staff, has a little bitty line through the middle. So we talk about, C. Then they think that everything with a little line through the middle is a C, whether it's up here or down there, but it's not. But for right now, C is the one with the little line through the middle. Then you have to go up a little bit. You're going up and your note is just touching the bottom line. That's a D. You go up to the line, that's an E. You go up into the first space, that's an F. You go up to the next line, that's a G. So it's very important that they learn that going up, it's alphabetical. Everything is in order. We don't have to guess. If we know that this is C or we know that this is D, you can go line space, line space, line space, and go in alphabetical order. C, D, E, F, G. So the next space would be A. The next line is B. The next space is C. Right? And that's very important in reading music for them to understand. So we have this little game, and I'll tell them, okay, if this is C, take the red button that matches it and put it on the key that you would play. Okay. So I may have a video of this. Okay, here's some of the children. when they're very young, you know, you wonder how much can they actually process. But when the children can put it in their hands, it goes into their brain. If they can hold it and they can manipulate it, and that's one reason the magnets are wonderful, because they love that feeling of sticking, right? So there's Emerson doing one. And she did it, the one she's doing. Once they learn what they are in order, then you say, oh, but what if this one was here and that one was there? Could you still put these where they belong? So that takes them a few minutes to figure out. They're not just going straight up in order now. This is a C, but that one is a G. G doesn't follow D. So they have to put their C here and figure out where the G is. There. So they're putting these concepts together. Somebody who hasn't seen it, I guess you will have. Then, of course, you need to get to the left hand sometime or other. These two girls, I'm going to show you two little girls that changed my life forever. This is Hannah and Jazzy.
Lowers the pitch one,
And they're playing the harder game.
lowers the pitch 1/2 step to
But these two girls learned their right hand as little preschoolers. And then I said, okay, now we're going to learn the left hand. And they're like, no. I said, oh yeah, we will. And they're like, no. They both told me, I will never play with my left hand. I'm happy with the right hand. No, you have to learn the left hand. So they do play beautiful duets together with all four hands on the piano now. So we do the same thing, same exact thing, only this way. This time you're not going that direction because that would be the right hand. You're going this direction for the left hand. Okay, so we have our C, our B, our A, our G, our F, and they need to learn that we're going backwards in the alphabet. As we go down, we're counting backwards in the alphabet instead of forward. And at first, that concept's a little hard, but they catch on and they can go C, B, A, G, F before very long. And we're doing the same exact thing with this group of notes. So they can learn to play both hands. And then they can play a simple song, like Beethoven's Ode to Joy, where they learn that the E is on the bottom line, the F is the next phase, and they're playing a beautiful song that they've heard Mom and Dad play at home. It's amazing how many Montessori parents play classical music for their students at home, and they'll hear something by Beethoven or Mozart and they'll go, oh, I know that song. Well, now they can start to play that song. Then we have a note chart game that helps reinforce. Same idea as the other game, except this time they have to look at each note and tell me what the name of the note is, whether it's right hand or left hand. They're going to have another little glossary where they can look at it and see, oh, that's a C, oh, that's a D. Same idea. And by this time, they're used to the games and they understand what we're doing. And I've had parents take these home and say, oh, now I get what you're doing, the music. And I've had parents actually decide to take lessons. So I don't want to take too much time explaining because I want you all to play a game. After we learn how to read notes, we have to learn that some notes hold longer than others. We have what we call note value. And they're learning in their regular music class that if a note is filled in and has a stem, this is a stem, it's a quarter note. And at this point, everything's in 4/4 timing for them, so a quarter note gets 1 beat. So these are also sandpaper notes so that they can get the idea that what they feel like and what they look like. An 1/8 note gets half a beat, 2 1/8 notes make 1 beat. If they're not into fractions yet, this actually helps them to start to understand what fractions are all about. A 1/2 note gets 2 beats, a dotted 1/2 note gets 3, and the whole note gets 4. I only have one of those. And then they have a sorting tray for the note values with the answers written on the back. So if a teacher wants to use this, you don't have to know all these things. It's written right there. But meanwhile, you're going to start to understand. So you can do it. Okay. This little book is written to take the fear out of first piano lesson. It's called Janita's New Piano, and there's a couple of them here if you'd like to look later. And it basically explains the big 7 concepts, but it's a narrative of a little boy and his mother. The mother gets a piano from a neighbor, and we're going to take lessons and what should happen or what ordinarily does happen at the first piano lesson. So you can read it to a child and help them understand, well, this is what piano lessons are all about. So now to get to the most fun game.
Lowers the pitch 1. Yeah, we'll lower it.
And then Jeff, here
Lowers the pitch 1/2 step to the left.
play the next note to the left.
Whether it's left or right.
Yes.
2. F clef. You play with your left hand. Get out of the little screen. Now I'm turn the back
So I'm not going to play the whole video, but the idea is, when I had taken this job at the other Montessori school, at a certain point I was so frustrated because I wanted them, I had students who could read music, but they didn't want to pay attention to the little symbols that tell you whether it's loud or soft or staccato or legato, right? And like you tell them and it's in one ear and out the other, and I don't want to know, like they don't even want to know. You know, if it's going to be that complicated and that many terms, they're learning terms in all their other classes and they don't want to memorize a new set of terms. So one weekend, along Labor Day weekend, I started getting on the internet and looking for tools. Because it's important for them to learn how to play. You don't want the Moonlight Sonata to be pounded out like a march. Okay? It says P, P, which means pianissimo, very soft. And if they play it like a march, it's not going to sound like the Moonlight Sonata. So all these things are important for them to learn how to play the way the composer meant for the song to be played. And I try to tell them, oh, they go, oh, well, I can go on YouTube and watch it and I can learn it there. And I say, yes, and what if you don't, what if that song is not on YouTube? Right? And what if your mom doesn't have that record at home to play this song for you? If someone hands you a manuscript of music and says, okay, we need to play this Friday, we need you to learn the music, by the way, we'll pay you $100. And you can't find that on YouTube. How are you going to learn that if you don't know how to read music? So anyway, back to this. I couldn't find the tools to tell me what I wanted except flashcards, and I happened onto one site where the teachers were saying, if you want children to learn, make a game. I thought, okay, no duh. But there aren't any. So she showed how to use a PowerPoint to create a game board. And I made a game that looked something like this. It's been tweaked through the years. And I took it to school and I thought, well, the kids are going to hate it. But they didn't. Within a couple of weeks, I had students who would not even pay attention to these symbols quoting verbatim from the glossary and correcting each other, and they get all into it. I want to show you one really cute video of these little boys. Let's see, where are they?
That is a
What is it?
can I say?
Yeah,
G clef.
yeah, it's a G clef. Which hand plays it, James?
Left.
Good.
My turn. Five.
He's not reading it out loud. You're supposed to read it out loud so everyone can hear. But they all have it. Can you find it on the board? Okay.
It means play song.
From the beginning? Yes, it means play from the beginning. And when do you stop? If it says Alfine, when do you stop?
Then at Fina.
Right, wherever it is in the song. Could be anywhere.
Easy to know. That's not what I mean. You can call it. You learn what a flat sound is. If you can explain it, you'll come on. If you're not ready for this, the memory box. And this one can then return to your previous place. That's a flat sound, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is not the flat sound.
Where?
That's an F.
Oh, no.
That's
No.
4K.
James, show him the flat sign.
Oh, I didn't know it. What's his name?
Okay, so I'm not going to go all the way through that because it's too long, and I want you all to have a chance to play. The point is, when you, in the game, if you land on a symbol, you have to say the name of it and what it does. And if you can't, you have to open the glossary and read it out loud for the whole class to hear and move back one space. So if you get a 1 the next time, you're back on that symbol again and they learn it. And it was just amazing to me that they actually learned it and would quote verbatim from the glossary and correct each other. If you land on a color block, you have to take one of the cards and read it and do what it says. It may say anything like, you played for your mom's birthday party, take an extra turn. Or it may say, you and your duet partner need to get your timing right. Go to the practice room and miss one turn. Some of the blocks that if you land on the symbol, you have to do what you would do in the symbol, even if you know what it means. Like for instance, who knows what that is? It's a repeat sign. So if you saw this in music, you would have to go back to the beginning. So if they land on the repeat sign, they have to go back to the beginning. If they land on this repeat sign, it works in tandem with that repeat sign, and you only go back to there, but you do have to go back there even if you know what it means. If you land on dies alfine in music, you would have to find that symbol and play from there. So if you land on dies alfine, you must go to that symbol. If you land on BC alfine means go back to the beginning of the song and play until you see the word feeding. So they're almost winning here. They can get sent all the way back to start. And if they land on this one, it's a little wavy line from note to note. It's a glissando. That's a glissando. So if they know what that is, they get to take the shortcut to go across. So I would like at this point, if we could, to just have you turn that way and you turn that way, and maybe we can get around some table snacks or play the game. obey what the card says. If the card says,
They're not paying attention right now.
love that. That's exactly what I would like.
Good.
Long term. I will miss long term because no, you cannot.
Yeah.
That just since I was here. Six. Oh, which one is it?
Same thing again. Oh, you know what it is.
What is it? You have to tell us. You have to lower your
You guys got a cheat sheet right there.
I know. We used it already.
You need to learn the second page on her.
Where does she go though? She just stays here and listens to her? I don't know how to get out of there. What is it? The piano. You sing.
Like she said, it's a whole new language. So it's like learning French. So
I don't know.
You're supposed to mean that repeats back that, you have to go back to the other sign. She said it, she said it here, but
pianissimo is very soft.
I love it.
Awesome to hear. Well, as you saw, I mean, the kids, they love it. They get so into it, and it's.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah, they really do.
We're getting up there. That's a flat.
Goes back halfway. Am I right? Yes. So where's the pitch one? Okay. Yeah.
Lowers. Oh, is it my turn? Another card. Go to the next color block.